Okay, now we're going to add or subtract rational expressions. So think back to probably fourth grade where you start adding fractions. As long as the denominators are the same, you can add those. 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 2/2, which is 1 whole. But if you added 1/3 or 1/2 plus 1/3, those are not the same denominators. Think about it this way. 1/2 of a pi plus, it makes it difficult to know what that equals, so you have to find same denominators. So you multiply this numerator and denominator by 3 over 3. Remember, we're not changing the value. 3 divided 3 is 1. So this fraction by 2 divided 2. Notice each time we're just multiplying by 1. So the costume changes, but the value doesn't. So now you have 3 over 6 plus 2 over 6, which equals 5 over 6. All right. So that's just a refresher on adding, subtracting fractions. So notice what we have here. We look first to the denominators. They're the same. So then we go ahead and put those values in the denominator. Now up here, so I'm going to start with A. You can only subtract A's with A's. So this is A subtract A. Well, those cancel each other out. Now you have 4B subtract a negative. So that will be like adding 2B. So 4B plus 2B is 6B. Now look at what we have. 6 over 8, they both have a 2 in common. So 6 is 2 times 3 times B. 8B squared times A. Well, 8 is 2 times 4. B squared is B times A. And now look at what we have in common. We have these 2 divided 2 is 1. B divide B cancels to 1. And then you have the result. 3 times 1 is 3. In the denominator, you have 4 times B times A. And I'm going to rearrange those alphabetically. So this simplifies to 4 times A times B. Now, if you left it B times A, that's fine. So notice this will be the same. It already has 18AY as the denominator. Now, 2x subtract x is 1x. And then we've got 3y subtract negative 5y. So subtract a negative is like adding. So 3y plus 5y is positive 8y. And look at x, 8y, 18y, all don't share anything. So this is the simplified version. The only thing you might want to add is you just say where y cannot equal 0. All right, let's find one where they don't have the same denominator. So notice this denominator just has 4. This denominator has 4x squared over y. So we don't have to multiply this fraction by anything, but this fraction, we have to multiply it by x squared over x squared times y over y. So x squared over y, x squared times y over x squared times y times 5x over 4. We're going to subtract 5x over 4x squared y. Now, some of you might say, wait a second, up there, 5x subtract 5x would be 0. So the answer would be 0. But remember, you can't subtract until the denominators are the same. So now, x squared times y times 4 we're going to have one denominator, which is now, those two are going to have the same denominator, which is 4x squared y. And in the numerator, x squared times 5x to the first. Remember laws of exponents, when you multiply powers, you add the exponents. So 1 plus 2 is 3, so this will be 5x cubed times y, subtract 5x. Now, I do notice one thing. All three terms have at least one x. So if we factor out an x here, that will leave 3 subtract 1, that will leave x squared times y. 5x divide 5 leaves, 5x divide x just leaves that 5, because we factored out the x right there. And then we're going to factor out, and that leaves 4xy. And now these x's cancel. So our final result is 5x squared y subtract 5 all over 4xy. All right, let's do another one of those. Notice this one's pretty close. They both have an m. This is 4, this is 2. So we just have to multiply this fraction, top and bottom, by 2. And then both fractions will have 4m as the denominator. And in the numerator, we have 4n plus 3n times 2 is 6n. So that's going to simplify to 10n over 4m. But the 10 and the 4 will share a 2. So we have 2 times 5n over 2 times 2m. Those 2's cancel the 1. So our final result is 5n divided by 2m. All right, let's see. I think we can end it. Well, on the next two, notice they each have a y in common, but this one you'd have to multiply top and bottom by 2. This one, since there's a plus sign, put it in parentheses, you'd have to multiply top and bottom by 5. So then they're both going to have a 10y in common, so you can turn it into one fraction. And then 2 times 3y is 6y. Now over here you have to do the distributive. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 3y is 15y. And now look at what we have. 15y and 6y. You can add together to be 21y plus 5x divided by 10y. And notice 10, 5, and 21, all three do not share factors. All three don't have a y, and all three don't have an x. So that's as simplified as you're going to get it. All right, that's it for this one.